Good evening. Welcome to Fanatics of Film. Tonight we're going to be talking about Overlord from Bad Robot, J.J. Abrams. My name is Joe, and I'm here with Ben.
How's it going? Thank you so much for joining us. We just barely got back from seeing this really cool. It's kind of like Band of Brothers had a one-night stand with a science fiction horror movie.
Yeah, it's a nice revisionist war movie / horror film / action film. It's kind of a mixed genre there. I gotta say, it's like a grade A B movie, and I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. We got a nice advanced sneak peek, and I think kind of feel like they missed the opportunity of releasing it in October, because I think October would have been a really good time of the year for that. But still, especially right now with all the Oscar bait coming out, all the films that are please love us Oscars, all the biops, PG-13 biops of R-rated people and all that nonsense. So it's good to have an alternative. And quite frankly, I was really pleased with this film. It was really enjoyable to me.
Yeah, I had fun. I had fun. I definitely think you enjoyed it more than I did. I'm starting to see what you mean about a lot of close-ups, too much camera involvement in the shakiness of the action.
It actually wasn't as scary as I thought that they were going to make it. The emphasis wasn't really on horror. It was actually more on war and war atrocities than it was on horror. But kind of a revisionist take on World War II, in that it's not historically accurate. And unfortunately, at this time in the United States, the military was still segregated. So you wouldn't have had such a diverse cast of people. It feels like people are... they were kind of channeling their inner John Carpenter, it seems like the type of movie I could have seen in the 80s. I mean, supernatural World War II movies are not new. They've been around for a while, but it definitely feels like it's something that could have come out 15 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. But I do think, again, without spoiling too much, sometimes some of the visual effects are impressive. Like the whole opening sequence of this film I thought was really impressive, flying right into bombing, like you see in the trailer. However, some of the effects with you could tell were done with green screen and CG and the camera trying to get you right into the action of things, and that's great and all, but I feel like Saving Private Ryan kind of already covered that ground, and not every war movie needs to go that direction, but good cast too. I cannot believe that's Kurt Russell's kid.
Yeah, that's right. I hadn't realized that. Wyatt Russell.
So I'm trying to think. I don't know him from anything else, but there were so many moments in this film where Wyatt Russell really it reminded me of so much of his dad, of Kurt Russell. I feel like if this movie had been made 30 years ago, Kurt Russell could have played his character, because he channels a lot of that style of acting. It's very cool. He just doesn't have the feathered hair that Kurt Russell makes look good. Kurt Russell's the only man that can make a mullet look good.
He's the only. Not Eugene. No, I'm kidding.
No. Eugene could take some lessons from Kurt Russell.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was in the Walking Dead universe, I'd have been like, dude, you can keep that mullet, but like, look at, you got a Billy Ray Cyrus thing going on here, but look, you could have a Kurt Russell thing going on. And Kurt Russell still has the hair. He has it in Death Proof. He has it in Sky High. He's got it in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I love it. I love his hair. I love Kurt Russell, and I love his hair. But no, I thought this was a really good cast. It was kind of interesting to see Bokeem Woodbine. I haven't seen him in a while. He's still out there. It's just I haven't seen him in a genre film like this in a while. A lot of people I'm not familiar with, but Ian, how do you pronounce that? Ian DeCasticker from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Nice to see him in a movie.
Oh, cool.
He used to be on a BBC series called, it was a supernatural, kind of dealt with the end of the world kind of scenario. And it was kind of similar for him, but he actually did a really good American accent. Yeah, he was in a show called The Fades back in like 2009 or 10 on BBC. It was a really good supernatural series. So when he So I already liked him from that, and then when he popped up on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., it was like, hey, cool, because the Fade's like so many good shows ended on a cliffhanger and got canceled. So to see him working on a show like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which I think he's really good in, I really liked his character in this.
Yeah, I thought it was. I mean, I did enjoy that. I did enjoy it. Some of the coolest parts were, of course, the villain. I thought he was done extremely well. There's a moment where you have or at least one of the protagonists in there, one of the guys, and interrogates. Minor spoiler. He interrogates someone by holding him up, hoisting someone up and being held as your classic torture device, or at least being held, suspended from a ceiling. And later on, the villain hoists him up in a different way and does it. So you see them, the same two people get reverse roles. So that was kind of interesting for me, in that respect. The very beginning, especially when you first see Jovan, is it Jovan or Jovan? Jovan Adipo Boyce. He when anyone has to, and when any actor has to do an underwater scene, it always makes me hold my breath, and I'm always thoroughly impressed with that, because they're out of breath at a certain point, and I can never hold my breath too long underwater. So that was great.
I used to be able to when I was younger and grew up with the swimming pool. I can't do that anymore. I just kept thinking, oh, I'd have been dead before this movie got started. But I really liked him as a lead. Like, I wasn't familiar. I'm not familiar with him, but he was really good in this film.
Well, I mean, initially his character is one who isn't really built for this. They outline to where he's not very built for this. He doesn't want to hurt a mouse, and the mouse tells the story. One of his cohorts tells the story of him not wanting to hurt this mouse that keeps coming back and crapping on their pillows. And it's something where he has to become kind of a killer in this movie.
Yeah, and there's some nice brutality in this movie too. I mean, you got brutality in the sense of man killing man, and the World War II setting. So you've got the bombs, and you've got landmines, and you've got machine guns and handguns, and so there's a lot of that kind of action. There's a little bit of stabby action in this movie, and then there's some really extreme gore too, which I got a kick out of, because it just comes out of left field. There were some nice jump scares. I mean, it got me once, but the guy next to me was having a hard time with it. It was really getting to him.
There is actually a really cool Trojan horse moment, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The grenade and stuff.
Yeah.
So, but we're not going to get too far into that, of course. But really impressive surprises, I think, here too, especially. People having to really work hard behind enemy lines and figure out things. Part of me, anyway, it's just interesting, because you kind of don't know the whole story about why they're there until all that is illustrated later. But anyway, I had fun with it.
I always like genre films. I'm a big genre fan. John Carpenter's one of my favorite filmmakers of all time. And so, and I'm a horror fan too. So,
did you feel some of that? So you really felt some of that style in this, then?
Yeah, I mean, again, there were moments where they could have used a little less handheld shaky cam.
Yeah,
I don't mind so much during the actual war scenes. That's fine. It kind of gives you that gritty documentary feel that Saving Private Ryan had, and so many other war movies since then have imitated. But then there were nice tracking shots, like where they're marching across the enemy line at night in the French countryside, and you've got the mist in the background, and shots like that going over the statues of Jesus being burned by the Nazis, and while they're going through the town, and shots like that I absolutely love. And I do feel like, if I am critical, it could have used more shots like that and less of the handheld. And I do feel like there were a few plot holes, of course, but it's not a film that's trying to be high art or anything. It's a good escapist action horror film, and I always appreciate when people can pull one of those off and actually make it look good, make it sound good. and make, within the context of its story, make it believable and have good performances and a good sense of humor. And this one definitely had a good sense of humor. And some of it's based on the stereotype of like the kid from New York, you know what I mean? Who's always just the soldier who's always the smart mouth chewing his gum and everything.
Well, that's what reminded me of Band of Brothers. A lot of that, of course, the opening sequence and everything like that reminded us of that. But in general, you do have some cool character development. One of the biggest things that I was mostly impressed with was the loudmouth New Yorker type was very. Standoffish towards the kid brother, and then they end up bond. So there's a bond between them that's built. So that was one of my favorite parts about this movie.
Yeah, so I'd recommend it for pure escapist fun. I'd give it 3 out of 4 stars. Solid production, and I look forward to seeing it again. I'm probably going to see it again on the big screen because I really had a good time with this movie. Yeah,
I give it a 2.7 stars out of 4. Almost 3. Almost. Okay, 2.8. 2.8 stars if you're allowed to do that. Am I allowed to do that? Are we allowed to do that in this?
There are no rules here.
In this universe, in this alternate universe that's, well, I mean, this is actually based on a true story. It's a documentary.
You know what? This is the type of stuff that I kind of wish had happened slightly during the war, just because I'm a bit of a World War II, I wouldn't say fanatic, but I watch a lot of documentaries about World War II because it's such a grand scope of a war. It's huge. It is a world war, and it's interesting that there were, the elements of Adolf Hitler using the supernatural as a way of sort of saying he was prophesized to be a world leader, or European leader, and just kind of the idea of Nazis experimenting with, all kinds of unholy things. I mean, you see it in Hellboy and so many other horror films.
Captain America. So to sort of add this to that lineage or into that genre, I'm totally fine with. If you want to enjoy, go out and see the movie this weekend. Have fun with it. It's a good film. Thanks so much for joining us. This has been the Fanatics of Film. My name is Ben. And I'm Joe. And as always, we appreciate you tuning in, and like and subscribe. Psych and subscribe.